Greetings, fellow gamers. I'm the Soulsborne Seeker, and today I'll be giving my first impressions on Voidwrought, a cosmic horror Metroidvania game that's being developed by Powersnake and expected to come out sometime in the remainder of 2024 for PC and Nintendo Switch. The developer was kind enough to give me access to an early version of the game and allowed me to share with you my experience during the first couple of hours of Voidwrought, which is what this preview will be covering. Voidwrought transpires within an ancient city which was once home to the first civilization, a place now withered and reduced to nothing but the husk of its former self. However, once every century the city comes alive as Ichor, the lifeblood of the progenitors, bursts forth once more, resulting in a siren's call to a variety of different opportunists, each one venturing down the fallen world for their own purposes. You embody an unholy creation birthed by the fusion of Ichor and the Void, a creature known as the Simulacrum, tasked with exploring the city in order to end the reign of the old, tainted gods that inhabit it. But whether your actions will lead to the land's salvation or condemnation remains to be seen. As a huge fan of cosmic horror, I am delighted to say that the setting of Voidwrought is just drenched in Lovecraftian dread, featuring some of the most beautifully hand-drawn biomes I have ever seen in the genre, with each area evoking its own brand of degeneration and existential terror that results from the tainted touch of grand abominations beyond one's understanding. From the decrepit commons to the frozen wastes of the old water, all the way to the apocalyptic surface and the metallic confines of the Lost Expedition, the world of Voidwrought is just teeming with detailed environmental storytelling that denotes to a tale of hubris and persistently misguided arrogance that led to the downfall of not only a whole civilization, but also of those on the hunt for its legacy. Aside from environmental storytelling, the game also gives you snippets of lore via dialogue, as well as journal pages, item descriptions, and texts carved on primeval stones, all of which slowly piece together a puzzle of cosmic proportions that I cannot wait to see in its entirety. The parts of the world I got to explore were not only beautiful, but also home to a variety of different secrets and collectibles. For starters, you will come across an item called Dormant Salt Receptacle, which can be used to upgrade your healing item slots, thus allowing you more opportunities to heal in and out of combat. Additionally, you will discover shards of vitae, which increase your health when gathered in groups of 3. Furthermore, you'll find the aforementioned journal pages scattered about, which are intended as lore snippets that flesh out the setting, as well as a variety of different materials that can be used for a range of actions, such as opening secret vaults that upgrade your damage or purchasing various items from a merchant. You'll also discover relics, which are artifacts that you equip in order to gain active abilities at the cost of void charges, your battle currency, such as strengthening your claws for a brief period of time, as well as souls, which, on the contrary, provide passive benefits like extra health or increased rate of regeneration for void charges. Moreover, you will get to gather lots of Ichor, the game's main currency, which is dropped by killing enemies, completing side quests, as well as breaking destructible items in the environment. Finally, you'll get to find and acquire followers by lighting certain fires, which is where one of the game's most interesting systems comes into play. Voidwrought features a sort of base-building cult-themed mechanic with which you expand your home area piece by piece according to the number of followers and amount of Ichor you have at any given moment. By doing that, you open up new paths that may lead to collectibles, hidden areas, as well as new NPCs that will offer assistance to you. I have to admit I truly enjoyed that aspect of the game and found myself constantly curious as to what sort of secret I would be discovering with my next expansion. Also, as expected from a Metroidvania game, you'll get a chance to obtain a variety of different abilities related to mobility which will open up the world for you, with all of the ones I found being acquired by finding certain rooms within which floated egg-like orbs that you assimilated. On a final note, I have to say that I found the game's map to be very user-friendly and functional, with clear distinctions between biomes, proper marking of special rooms such as save, fast travel, ability acquisition, and vault points, as well as, thankfully, the option to place your own manual markers of diverse visual styles. Speaking of fast travel, I can't really expand on it since I unlocked it exactly at the part where I could no longer show additional footage of the game, but I don't think it will hurt to say that it is connected to these rooms right here and is very easy and simple to use. In terms of platforming, I must say I didn't really get the chance to see anything extraordinary here, though I didn't really mind that since I found the overall exploration to be quite engaging. The acrobatic segments I experienced were fairly straightforward, with me mostly having to use the jump, ledge grab, and pogo mechanics to move around, though I felt like there was huge potential for non-linearity with the pogo skill since you can use enemies to reach previously inaccessible areas, which gave me a nice sense of freedom. That being said, I do have one complaint here, and that has to do with the ledge grab ability. To put it simply, it felt a bit snappy and slippery at times, with me fumbling hectically with my controller in certain instances where I wasn't sure if I landed successfully on a platform or not. This wasn't such a huge issue in the grand scheme of things, but did become quite prominent in a certain area of the game called the Void. The problem here was that the platforms are lined by eyes across their edges, but said eyes aren't actually the place you land on, with a solid part of these platforms being lower than the eyes. This led to me constantly not being sure if I was landing on solid ground or not, which was a bit irritating and resulted to a few falls that could have otherwise been avoided. Combat-wise, I'm glad to report that Voidwrought tries to go the extra mile with significant success. On a basic level, you get a lightning fast melee claw combo with which you can tear your enemies apart in satisfying fashion. On top of that, you also get the aforementioned relics, which bring a variety of different effects in combat, such as producing ground waves that hit your enemies left and right, augmenting your claw damage, and throwing light beams, among others, effectively bringing ranged attacks into the mix. Of note here is the responsiveness and accuracy of the pogo mechanic, which I found incredibly useful against certain enemies. As mentioned previously, your damage can be upgraded by finding and opening certain vaults, which is highly recommended since it will make your life much easier, and your health expands by finding the aforementioned Vitae shards. Healing is carried out by pressing down a specific button, which allows you to channel your healing shards and restore your hit points. In relation to this, I did feel like the healing action took perhaps a second longer than it should, which frequently left me open to attacks when it came to certain hectic fights, though the incorporation of invincibility frames did even the scales a bit during those instances. Here, I do feel the obligation to mention that Voidwrought features what I like to call cage fights, which refers to the fact that from time to time you'll get locked inside a room and have to fight a few waves of enemies before you're allowed forward, which I know is something that some people may not find appealing, though I didn't mind it. Boss-wise, I'm beyond elated to say that the two main bosses I got to meet here were not only visually stunning, but incredibly fun to duke it out with as well, each one featuring a healthy range of attacks that kept things interesting and required good observation of certain animations that telegraphed each moveset in order to make sure you emerged victorious. If the developers can follow up these first two villains with some equally engaging future big bads, then Voidwrought will give us some boss fights to remember. I also got to fight a few mini-bosses, but those didn't stand out to me that much in terms of combat ability, even though their visual design was incredible. In terms of difficulty, I found the first 2 hours of Voidwrought to be sitting on the normal to a bit challenging side of things. The main spikes of difficulty I experienced were results of the aforementioned cage fight instances as well as the bosses, with the rest of the game challenge being relatively manageable, with the occasional struggle here and there when not being careful. Before I conclude, I do wish to mention one more thing that I truly enjoyed to see in Voidwrought in terms of quality of life functions for the players, and that is the region tab located in its menu. The reason I make special mention of this is because this tab actually shows you the completion progress you have in each separate area, which makes it easier for you to track your progress if you intend to go for 100%, and is a feature I always applaud when I see it in a game. In conclusion, I had a ton of fun during the initial 2 hours of Voidwrought. I adored its lore and the promise of story to come, I loved its boss fights, I had a blast with exploration, I was dumbfounded by its art style and ended up very impressed by the combat variety offered from relic usage. The mini-bosses I fought weren't memorable combat-wise, certain platforming segments were a bit problematic in relation to the ledge-grabbing ability, and I felt like healing could maybe take a second less to be carried out, but it has been some time since a game has grabbed me to that extent through sheer narrative possibility, visual presentation and crisp controls, making Voidwrought a game you should keep an eye on. What are your thoughts on Voidwrought? Had you heard about it before this preview? Are you planning to try it out when it becomes available? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out!